In an era where comic book adaptations are everywhere, I want to talk about one which has been completely forgotten, and perhaps that's because it's too niche for its own good.
Canada be damned. I'm going to the Klondike.
The Klondike is Canada.
Giorgio, you be doing just fine, brother.
Is there such a thing as a perfect film? Maybe. Personally, I think there's only a small handful of films which come out every generation, which I'd consider flawless. I'm stingy and critical about throwing the P word around when talking about cinema, and perhaps I could afford to be more critical of the films which I enjoy, yet most don't.
I can't imagine why.
It's because I don't like you.
But cinema criticism isn't an exact science, and is a question of taste. Taste is subjective, and I'm not above admitting when my taste ventures outside that of most, even if it does condemn my opinion to sleep with the fish. I don't take myself too seriously, which brings us to a movie that's universally hated, doesn't take itself too seriously, and is perhaps self-aware of it.
The Shadow knows.
Yes, I'm talking about the 1994 box office bomb, The Shadow, starring Alec Baldwin. And although there are some aspects of it which are less than perfect, I'd like to point out the aspects that work that unfortunately got lost in the cynical shuffle.
Okay.
The Shadow begins in post-World War I Tibet, and we're introduced to Lamont Cranston, played by Alec Baldwin. Lamont has fallen into a dark hole and has taken on a new identity as the Far East opium drug lord Yinko. Kidnapped and taken to a Tibetan tulku, Cranston finds redemption to cleanse his soul while learning the mystic arts of the mind.
You call that a temple? No! There! Where did that come from? The clouded mind sees nothing.
Years later, Cranston returns to his home, New York, where he takes on another new identity, that of the rumored cloaked crime-fighting figure, the Shadow. With the help of numerous agents across the city, including Lamont's love interest, Margot Lane, played by Penelope Ann Miller, the Shadow works both as a detective and a superhero to stop Shiwan Khan, played by John Lone, a Mongolian psychic descendant of Genghis Khan, whose maniacal plan is both devastating and far-reaching.
I guess you'd call it an explosive submolecular device.
Or an atomic bomb.
Again, the Shadow was indeed a bomb, and in some ways it shouldn't come as a surprise. At the time of its release, the radio play and the comics it was based on were over 6 decades old, and the film itself takes after the pulp fiction detective stories of the film's era, more so than the superhero film genre that was beginning to unfold in the 90s. With a niche source material and an aging demographic, all of this begs the question, who was the Shadow designed for?
Manhattan reels from yet another report of the elusive Shadow.
I think they just made up the Shadow so people would listen to the radio more.
Perhaps, given its PG-13 rating, the Shadow was designed to cut across all demographics in typical marketing fashion. That would explain why the violence is timid and infrequent, and how the film doesn't take itself too seriously, especially with its interactions between its hero and its villain.
In 3 days, the entire world would hear my roar and willingly fall subject to the lost empire of Shantain. That is a lovely tie, by the way. May I ask where you acquire it?
Brooks Brothers.
Is that Midtown?
45th and Madison. You are a barbarian.
Thank you. I am talking about ruling the world.
I'd like to give you a name. Leonard Levinsky. Brilliant psychiatrist.
You are boring me!
Oh, that knife.
Yet despite its few moments of levity, I posit that the Shadow is more sophisticated than we're giving it credit for. Both Cranston and Khan's origins reside in darkness. Khan's a self-proclaimed admirer of Yinko, the suppressed volatile part of Cranston that Cranston tries to keep at bay. Khan knows the darkness that lies in his heart, which is why Khan wants to recruit him, because the lines between Cranston and Khan are blurred. And perhaps Khan isn't wrong to think that. I mean, they both have some similarities, like how they both hypnotize people into suicide.
There's your exit, Claymore.
Supposed to be my lucky?
Jesus, I don't even know who the villain is anymore. Like any film that's both a bomb and nearly 30 years old, there's going to be some notable flaws. Some can be tied into the logic of the film, like why Khan's henchmen stick out in Mongolian armor while in New York, and others can be linked to the production, like the blatantly obvious sets with their more obvious matte painting backdrops. But if there's one thing about The Shadow that I see as its biggest shortcoming, it's that it tries to have it both ways between its dramatic, thrilling moments and its periodic shots at humor. It seems as though James Bond or Indiana Jones was the goal for Lamont Cranston. Yet the problem with The Shadow is that it doesn't quite fully commit one way or the other to either tone. On one hand, it has some great dramatic moments which are filmed well, like Lamont's second dream.
You were not supposed to be here.
Yet, it can also undercut and confuse that dramatic severity with humor that doesn't fit.
Next time, you get to be on top.
Or delivery that's so serious it's humorous.
You going to see her again?
No, it's much too dangerous.
Dangerous for who?
For me, Mo. For me.
Either way, The Shadow does itself a disservice by residing in this uncharted limbo. But does it deserve total condemnation? Absolutely not. When it comes down to it, The Shadow has the goods for the most part, and knows how to whip them out. That sounded dirtier than I meant.
Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
I'll bet you are.
That's not any better! The Shadow is due for a reboot, and frankly, I think they should cast a black guy. Yes, I know how that sounds, and I want to counter that with the fact that his name is Lamont. Hopefully a reboot may right some of the wrongs of this one, but in case it doesn't, I hope, like this one, we can see what noble efforts lie in the hearts of those who made it.